Welcome to another episode of Port Charles Chat. I'm Mom.
I'm Brandon.
Thank you so much for joining with us.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, we always love doing this. Brandon, how are you doing today as we have tackled another snowstorm?
Yes, can you believe it? But the question is, will there be another Port Charles blizzard to go along with it?
I know that is a good question. We'll see if there'll be another blizzard on in Port Charles. But today is, just so everyone knows, today is February the 22nd, 2026, and we are talking about the week of February 16th through February 20th. Brandon, are you ready to start beginning?
I sure am.
All right. And just so our listeners will know, last week when we did upload, accidentally, it looks like only 3.5 minutes uploaded instead of our whole chat. But we appreciate everyone watching for those 3.5 minutes. This week will be a little longer than 3.5 minutes. But first of all, Willow. Willow got a chance to see her kids this week. She was very enthusiastic and very happy to see her kids. Alexis came over also, and she asked to visit with Drew. Alexis spent some time with him, and while she was speaking with him, she noticed that he seemed like he was in distress. And so she kind of made this comment to Willow. Willow was not happy about that. And so Willow gave Drew another shot of whatever it is she's giving Drew. She also told Drew that he should not be doing that any longer. So I guess he was just a blinking away with her. Anyway, Maxie is home. And it was very nice to see. So Maxie came home to her family and to her friends. And then I think she became overwhelmed with everyone being there. And so once the kids were kind of cleaning up, she actually told Spinelli she wanted to go for a walk. And so she did go for a walk. And when she was out, she ran into Nathan. And at the last time that we saw them together, they were basically looking at each other and they had acknowledged each other. Michael is once more questioned by the police, but this is in regards to his keys. The police believe that Michael has a key to Drew's house, and so he gave over his keys so that they could take a look. And they did find out that he did have a key to Drew's house. Michael, of course, denied this, but at the same time, Rick came over to the Corner Bay Mansion, and he ran into Wiley, and Wiley made a comment about Chase having the keys. And so he immediately told Michael what was going on, or at least he informed Michael of something. And then he kind of told the police that they needed to look at one of their own in regards to Chase. Sidwell had a conversation with Willow. This is in regards to Willow taking over the office that Drew held. And so Willow is now considering it. At the same time, Laura has had a conversation with Alexis, asking her the same thing. So Alexis has already spoken to the girls, and she is also considering taking over Drew's office. Um, and then Lucas last week overheard a conversation that Marco had, and so he did confront Marco about the conversation. And Marco has tried to reassure him. He says that he loves Lucas, and so we'll see how that kind of ends up a little later. Valentine's Day was celebrated on Monday, because how could we forget Valentine's Day? And then Spinelli is worried about Max's feelings towards Nathan. Lastly, on Friday, Luke was remembered by several of the cast members on General Hospital. All right, Brandon, what did I miss?
Mom, certainly a lot happened this week, but it's so interesting thinking back at it just because all of this feels like it was so much longer than just a week because not everything connects to the immediate to each other, but instead to the wider story.
Yes, actually, that's very true, Brandon. It was just like bits and pieces throughout the week, and you're correct. It was hard to see the connection for some of them, but you do know that they were kind of connected to a larger story that they have out there. And so, which kind of leads me to our performers of the week. To me, this week, and I'm going to pick on Friday just because out of all episodes, that's the one to me that I think was kind of the most important one. And so, my performers of the week was actually Lulu and Tracy. in regards to the scene that and actually I'm going to give Laura credit too. Um, as the scene that they created for remembering Luke, and how they brought all the characters together who were close to Luke, and how they remembered him. And so I would like to give performance of the week to Lulu, Tracy, and Laura. All right, Brandon, what about you?
I will agree with that. I feel that that was the strongest part of the week, and I'm so sorry that not to discount Monday through Thursday because I mean they did have a lot of eventful stuff going on, but I think it was all just really eclipsed by Friday's episode.
It was, it was. Now I will say that in the Remembers, who I did miss was Lucky. He was the one character I really wish could have been there for this scene, for the scenes that took place. Um, and so I was sorry that he was not there. And the other presence that I missed was Bobby's presence. Because that was his sister, and so I'm sorry that they did not or could not. I'm not sure. Did not show clips of Bobby and Luke together.
Yeah, I'm glad at least that they did quite a bit at least of acknowledgement of Lucky. I believe we saw Lucky, I believe, in three different flashback clips from the various ages. So, I mean, I feel at least, and one of them is modern. So, I do feel that Lucky's presence is at least seen there, even not in present day, and that they had Elizabeth sort of as his stand in, and so I'm glad she could be a part of it. And then in terms of the Bobby stuff, I'm wondering, just based off the framing of the episode, is I'm wondering if it was like more of like a rights issue, just because they did enough to repeatedly mention Bobby and keep her name within the episode, but with no clips and no real, I guess, direct visual connections. I'm wondering if it's a rights thing because we emphasize that we had the location Bobbies, that Bobby and Luke, they at least alluded to the relationship, even though they didn't mention it outright. And they said enough throughout the episode to make you think that if they could have put it in there, they would have.
Yeah. And I'm sorry. And there's one other item that I thought they should have brought up, and that is the fact that Luke actually has another son. And so it didn't quite fit in the context per se, but I think a general mention to him would have been nice, even if it was just, Lulu saying, she mentioned Lucky. If she had just said, and my other brother, because that is something she could have said to Tracy rather than to Laura, and I think it would have fit right in. All right. All right. And then as for amusing scene of the week, for me, they have to be Valentine's Day, because, well, they just kind of have fun with that episode. So I like it when General Hospital has a fun episode. All right, Brandon, what about you for amusing scenes of the week?
It's interesting because I don't really. Oh, actually, no, I do have one.
Okay.
Liesel and Spinelli, where Liesel told Spinelli that his services are no longer needed.
Yeah, only Lisa can get away with that. But yes, she said that her Nathan will be there for Maxie. So yeah. All right. And then as for touching scenes of the week, once more, I'm going back to Luke's tribute because I think that just kind of was, it was very touching. And I will give Laura did a very, very nice job. So I was, so they did a good job with that. What about you, Brandon? Do you have a different touching scene of the week?
No, I agree. But what I thought was so interesting was with the pacing of the episode. Of course, the episode I think went to great lengths to sort of show that Laura's special connection with Luke, but the direct one they showed was actually Tracy's connection with Luke, what I thought was interesting.
Yeah, it was. For me, Laura's touchy scene was when she was in the church and she was just kind of remembering him. So I thought they did a
Yeah,
nice job with that. All right. And then something else I thought was really nice that they did was I like the way that they bonded Lulu in between both her mother and her stepmother. Because it was interesting that she went straight to Tracy first rather than Laura when she remembered her dad. And then, but when they were in the nightclub together, or the bar rather, they, she spoke really to her mother. So it kind of went both ways, and I thought they did a nice job, and I liked the way they let Tracy and Laura sit together. And right. And then as for fast forward scenes, I didn't have one this week. Brandon, did you have any fast forward scenes?
no.
Alrighty. And as for missing scenes of the week, I'm sure there was one, but I can't remember any. What about you?
Like I said, to me, it would have just been any sort of real acknowledgement of, like I said, of Bobby as a person per se. Just because even though they noted, Carly said, yeah, her mother, and they said the location Bobby's, and they showed the picture, is they didn't even outright mention that Bobby is Luke's sister. I mean, again, they said Bobby's name a few times in reference to the location and that Luke had a special connection, but I thought it was really odd that they sort of glanced over Bobby.
Yeah, same here. And then I had several where are yous. First of all, I don't think I saw these people. Olivia, Ned, Valentine, Charlotte, Danny, Charlotte, and Danny. Those are the ones that stood out to me. But then Jocelyn was not in either. What about you, Brandon?
Well, I'm certainly disappointed that Valentine was not in Valentine's Day.
I know that was so wrong.
But yes, but I also, of course, am missing Terry and um, oh gosh, I feel like there's some other people we're missing too that I feel we haven't seen in quite a moment.
Yeah, there were quite a few that were missing this week. And then welcome back. I'm going to give Maxie another welcome back because she is now looks like back for good. And then Spinella, who goes in and out, and I know he's been in recently, but it's so nice to see Spinelli. All right, Brand, did you have any welcome backs?
Even though we again we saw going under that same line, I'm gonna say Mac because again we saw him 2 weeks ago, but we didn't really have a chance to see him with Maxie before this, so that was also another touching moment there.
Oh yeah, and all the children, they were all back too.
Yes, and all the extras on Friday.
Oh yes, that's true too. True too. All right, Brandon. Let's see. Were there any other things you want to talk about that occurred this week on General Hospital?
Well, I feel that we're sort of getting closer, like inching closer towards trying to figure out when the world is going on with whatever the story is in terms of Sidwell, Cullum, Pascal, and everybody else. And so it does seem like Sidwell is saying that we still need to keep Marco happy with Lucas. But if Lucas can't help himself, well, we're going to make sure to comfort Marco at Lucas's funeral.
Yeah, it's really quite frightening. But yes.
But I will
Any
say we had a strong Lucas this week.
Yeah, we did. We did. It was nice to see, I like silly Lucas, but it was nice to see him in a serious role at the same time.
And I will say another funny moment we had was Lucas telling Carly that, you know what, despite all of the horrible stuff that Marco seems to be doing, I still love him. I'm going to stay with him. And Carly's like, but he's a criminal. And it's like, and then they glance over to Sunny, and she's like, point taken.
Yeah. Yes, I do like the subtle moments that General Hospital does give to his characters.
Yes, and I will say, speaking of subtle moments, during the flashbacks of Luke and Friday's episode, they actually had the old General Hospital themes playing in the background.
Yes, that was done very nicely. I believe it was when Laura was at the church and she was thinking about Luke. We did hear the old theme song for General Hospital, which it was so nice to hear.
Yes, it definitely was. I love the flashbacks, and I'm glad that they were able to end out with a flashback to Luke speaking to the previous Lulu, and I like how they sort of edited that in such a way that you don't know it was a previous Lulu, but it is Luke speaking to Lulu because that was his final bit of dialogue he really had, as we saw in that flashback episode a few weeks ago.
Yes, yes. They like I said, they did a wonderful job with that episode.
They really did.
Yes. All right, everybody, let us know what were your thoughts about the Remembrance of Luke and what were your thoughts about General Hospital last week. And we look forward to speaking with you next week. Have a great day, everybody.
And we'll see you next time.
All right, bye bye.